All right, shalom everyone. I'm Dr. Yasako from Zion Law School. Welcome. All right, welcome to the free astrotheology course. Our textbook is The Devil's Pulpit. The author is Robert Taylor. The link to the free PDF, rather, is in the description area of this video, along with links to other free PDFs and books that I have written. So let's get started. Let's get started. We will pick up on page 61. Hey, do you realize I'm live streaming, and if you play music, it's gonna get my live stream. I know you hear me. You see how rude and ignorant some people can be? This lady sitting next to me sees me live streaming, and she turns on her music. But until I get a studio, I have to deal with these types of frustrations. So those of you who want to support the work that I'm doing so I don't have to get a strike because these ignorant people do trifling things, and she understands me. But one of the things I've noticed in Southeast Asia, this is a passive-aggressive type of behavior, you know. Instead of saying something, they do something like that. But you get used to it. In Vietnam, they call these kind of people low-class people. And it's true. Low-class people do stuff like that. But anyway, we are on page 61. All right, 61, and we're going to pick up where we left off, which is at the bottom, the last paragraph on page 51, 61. All right, so let's begin. And therefore, with most mythological accuracy, is the birthday of John the Baptist fixed so near to the sun's highest point of ascension. So this is the summer solstice, right? So the summer solstice is at its highest point in the northern part of space on June 21st. That's the summer solstice, okay? June 21st, 22nd. On June 24th, the Catholics recognize that as the feast or festival of John the Baptist. I'm getting this from page 61. Okay. All right. So remember, the sun cannot go higher than it is at June 21. So it begins to fall, right? The sun begins to fall, or it begins to decline in altitude. All right. So it's falling toward autumn. Okay. But June 21, 22, 23, 24, that's 3 days. Okay, just 3 days past the sun's highest point. So it will have only fallen 3 degrees because it falls or ascends 1 degree per day. All right, now let's continue. So it reads, okay, and therefore, with most mythological accuracy, is the birthday of John the Baptist fixed so near the sun's highest point of ascension, because that point really is, not merely figuratively, but physically, note the mountain of the capital L-O-R-D. So what about mountains? Well, one, across all epochs of time, mountains are the places where the deities can be found. The deities are at the top of the mountain, right? Quite often, you'll read in the history books, or the mythology books rather, that the deities are on top of a mountain, and the mountain happens to be a volcano. All right, the mountain happens to be a volcano. All right. So here, and then what else about mountains? If you're on a mountain and you yell, let's say you're on a mountain and it's full of snow, and you yell, what's going to happen? There's going to be an echo which can cause an avalanche, right? So voices are carried and amplified. So that should call to mind that John the Baptist said of himself, he says, I am a voice. I am a voice in the wilderness, right? That's what he said, and only a voice. But anyway, let's continue reading. Page 62. And John the Baptist, as we have seen, was by his second birth, the son, the S-O-N, son of that self-same mountain. All right. Mountains in all ages. That's in, going across a large span of time, epochs of time. Not merely figuratively, but physically, are famous for giving birth to echoes. Okay? Mountains give birth to echoes, as we just mentioned. And what was John the Baptist but an echo? Remember, he said he's a voice in the wilderness. A voice and nothing but a voice. All right? And as we see in the 40th of Isaiah, the voice said, cry. And he said, what shall I cry? But I say, you may cry what you please, but I shall cry. It's no go. Okay? So that paragraph is simply emphasizing that John the Baptist is a voice and its relationship to the mountain. All right? Why? The sun is at its highest point of declination, and only 3 degrees less than that, you're still near the top of the mountain, as it were, right? The sun in that position, you can say, is at the top of the mountain, right? The sun at the summer solstice is at the top of the mountain. But anyway, let's continue. But observe, I pray ye, the great enucleation, the character of priest, and of all the priests of all religions, has ever been the same. From the days of remote ages, the priests usurp to themselves the sole and exclusive right of addressing public assemblies, and were the first theatrical performers. Did y'all understand what he just said there? The religious leaders were the first actors. They were the first actors acting in plays. So you should understand that in law, according to alleged Greek and Roman histories, the plays taught law and other principles of living in plays. And they would, of course, the actors would wear a mask. And this is where the concept of the straw man comes from, right? The actor wearing a mask. And the actor is playing a role. So the straw man is playing a role. So for example, if you're in your conveyance, the straw man is what? Driving. Everybody see that? And when they deal with you, they deal with the straw man, not you. Okay? So same concept. So why is it that in religion and law we see the same happening, which are these plays, and a straw man, or someone wearing a mask pretending to be someone he's not. Why is that? Well, it's the Judeo-Christian legal system. So you should expect to see that, right? It should have the same origin. We should see the same history, the same culture, right? Because it's one and the same. There's no such thing as separation of church and state. Okay, now let's continue. The character of priests and of priests in all religions has ever been the same. From the days of the remotest ages, that's from the most ancient histories, the most ancient epics of time. You can go back, a million cycles of the Zodiac, or great years, right? Which are 25,900 years. You can go back to a million of them. Okay, the most remote ages. But remember, man has no beginning. Okay, man always was. But let's continue. But religion is new. All right. Okay, so from the most remote ages, the priests usurped to themselves, they took it to themselves, the sole and exclusive right of addressing public assemblies. In other words, the religious people put policies in place, or even just physically force people not to talk to crowds. They left that for their own selves. Okay? If there are people gathered together, nobody could talk to them except for the religious leaders. This is what the author is saying. Okay? So that's the sole and exclusive right of addressing public assemblies, talking in public. And we're the first theatrical performers. So the priests were the first actors and actresses. So if you were not a priest, you could not be an actor in a play, right? You could not do it. All right, so let's continue. I lost my place. I'm getting distracted by their music. Okay. A monopoly, which you do see with your own eyes, they would, if they could, still keep up. So if they could, back in 1830s, if they could have continued to force other people to not speak in groups or in crowds, they would have. But fortunately, by the 1880s, they had lost some power. So other people could speak publicly. That's what's being said here. All right. All right. So let's continue. Okay, so the most fanatical and evangelical of them, not blushing to preach against theatrical entertainments. In other words, they would tell their congregation, don't go to plays. And to warn their hearers not to go to any other playhouses, but their own. So what you're going to find out is that when you go to church, church is theater. So in other words, don't go to anybody's church, or don't go see any plays, because see, that's sinful. You only come here to my church. That's what they're saying. Of course, that's why, to control the people, right? This was supposed to be a strawberry yogurt, but it was quite not good. But anyway, let's continue. Page 62. This is really a key concept. I don't know if it seems boring, but if you can get this concept into your mind, that a play has a script. There's a script, and the actors are playing a role. That's not the actor's true life. And at that time, they wore masks. So the face of the actor was not his true face. Y'all see it? And this is the interaction between corporations and natural men and women, Moors. Corporations cannot lawfully engage Moors, men and women who are sprung from the soil. They can only engage corporations. Why? Because they're figments of the imagination. They have no substance. Okay, that's a well-established principle in law. So they came up with the way to get around this by creating the ens legis, the straw man, and have you think that you're the straw man, the all capital letter name, right? And now the corporation is interacting with your straw man, but yet you, not knowing that, you accept being surety. Okay, you accept the debt of that straw man. Everybody see that, how that's working? So this is a key concept. This is where that whole concept comes from. All right? But anyway, let's continue. Let's continue to explore it. Next paragraph on page 62. Hence the first forms of religion were perfectly theatrical. The first theatrical performances were tragedies. Tragedies. So what's a play that's a tragedy? It's very sad, right? Somebody gets brutalized. Eventually, usually what? They're usually a good person, and people treat them badly. They get brutalized. They expire in some brutal way, and everybody feels sorry for them, right? So remember the concept of narrative transportation. So when you feel sorry for people, or if you feel sorry for the main character in the play, it becomes very easy to get emotionally involved, right? And you begin to feel and see images in your head. Well, at that point, narrative transportation has already taken place. Okay, and it's just a matter of time. If you see that play over and over again, if you hear that incantation, if you listen to that magical spell, if you read that magical spell, I'm talking about in your Gospels, in your New Testament. Those are incantations. The sermons are also incantations, charms. When you see the emblems and all of these things, these are all magical spells that assist you to transport yourself into the narrative, right? Through your emotions, feeling sorry, images that you get in your head, and then it's just a matter of time, as I just mentioned, that you will eventually begin to relate to and then start to change your life, to live the life consistently with that person who you feel so sorry for. That character, that main character in the story. For example, Jesus in the gospel story, right? He heals people. He does all of these wonderful things. He's said to be God's son. Nobody appreciates him but the people close to him. He gets brutalized by his own people and eventually exterminated. But he offers you everlasting life in heaven or in the kingdom on earth, whatever your doctrine is. And he makes it so you don't have to suffer burning in hell or whatever your doctrine is. So you feel sorry for him and you feel some responsibility to him. This is the purpose of the literary tool we call tragedies. All right? So again, the first theatrical performances were tragedies, and the first tragedy was the gospel. Y'all hear that? The first tragedy was the gospel. The first performers, or tragedians, the first actors in the gospels, were called, and they give us a Greek name, but in English they were called hypocrites. Hypocrites. Well, why hypocrites, y'all? Hypocrites, that is, persons acting under a mask and having an undersense and different understanding to themselves of the shows they exhibited to the people. In other words, they're just acting out a script. That's not who they really are. That's not their real life. That's just a script. So they're called what? Hypocrites. The same as when you lie to somebody or somebody lies to you, right? Tell you they're going to do something, whatever the case may be, they're being a what? A hypocrite. Right? So the whole Judeo-Christian or the Western administrative law, statutory law, all of that stuff, it's nothing but hypocrisy. Why? Because they're dealing with masks. Y'all see it? And religion itself is therefore nothing but hypocrisy. But let's let the author develop his points on his own. Okay, thus all our priests to this day are hypocrites. Why? Because the gospel was the first tragedy. You go back to its origin, as the author said, the actors wore masks. And we're watching a script, not their real life. So they're called hypocrites. That's what they were called, hypocrites. Okay, so if the priests were originally called hypocrites back then, they're also hypocrites today, whether you use that terminology or not. Okay? And all the religion in the world is nothing but hypocrisy. Now, do y'all see why I keep telling you? Abandon religion, escape religion, get out as fast as you can. Everybody see that? Stop serving these external deities. You're being a hypocrite. All right? Of this fact, you find the gospel itself bear witness. Okay, so there's evidence that all religion. Let's stick to the gospel. Are hypocrites. And here's what what JC the Christ figure said. All right? Of this fact that they are hypocrites, you find the gospel itself bears witness in that Christ, the manager of the strolling company, isn't it interesting that he calls it a strolling company? Company should be what? What should you think? Well, we already talked about the summer solstice. The summer solstice. What's directly below the summer solstice? The winter solstice. Which zodiac sign is the winter solstice? It's Capricorn. 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 Corporations. Right? Capricorn. Corporate domination. Y'all see where this is going? Listen. Christ, the manager of the strolling company, Christianity, right, repeatedly addresses the chief priest and preachers of his gospel by their appropriate title, ye hypocrites, that is, ye players, or gentlemen of the buskin, ye players. Players are actors. They're playing a part, playing a role. They are playing you. Now do you see why JC the Christ figure called the religious leaders you hypocrites? Because they're hypocrites. They're just playing a role. They're wearing a mask. I hope that gave you a different understanding of what JC was saying when he called them hypocrites. Was he talking about their hypocrisy toward keeping the law? Or was he talking about they are just actors in a tragedy play called the Gospels? So he called them hypocrites because that's what actors were called at that time. Hypocrites. The ode or incarnation of the goat is derived, was precisely what our gospel is found to be, an allegorical pantomime of the sun's, the S-U-N sun's, annual passage through the 12 signs of the Zodiac by those who reckoned the year to begin from the winter solstice. So if you were from a nation and your people said the beginning of the year is December 21, 22, then this applies to you, okay? When the sun is in the sign of the goat, the sign of the goat is Capricorn, but of course it's a goat at the top and a fish at the bottom. It's a hybrid, right? It's a hybrid. While those who reckon the year as being at the vernal equinox, that's the spring solstice, so that's going to be around March 19, 2021, something like that. At the vernal equinox, let me find it, when the sun crosses the line of the equator. So, of course, the vernal equinox, the sun is springing up, ascending up, and then it passes over the celestial equator, which is the sun passing over the celestial equator. In Judaism is called the Passover. In Christianity is called Easter. Okay, y'all? It is called Easter. Okay? But anyway, let's continue. So when it crosses over, or passes over rather, when it passes over the vernal equinox with the celestial equator, at the vernal equinox, March 19, 2021, that's the house, or that's Aries, okay? Aries the lamb, which is Gad, G-A-D, which is God, G-O-D, right? The vowels are interchangeable. The vowels are interchangeable. It could be Gad, good, God, all right? Whatever you want to do with the vowels. You can have G-O-O-D, good, delete a D, right? That's one of the tricks they play, okay? But Gad, all right? So this is Aries the ram, the Lamb of God, the vernal equinox, okay? All right. So, whose ancient ammonium name was Gad, as we just discussed, G-A-D. That's the first tribe of Judah, right? So Gad is the first tribe of Israel. There are 12 tribes, 12 zodiac signs, 12 tribes, okay? So Gad is the first, Aries is the first, all right? Gad is the first tribe, Aries is the first zodiac sign. So the connection is very clear, right? Very obvious. Which has become our English God, G-O-D, exhibited the same, and then they give us a Greek word which means tragedy in English, or spell of the goat. It means tragedy or spell of the goat. Did y'all hear that? Spell of the goat, the spell of Capricorn. The God spell of Capricorn, under the varied name but not varied significancy of the God spell, or God's spell, that is the ode, that's O-D-E, or incantation of the ram. Let me show y'all this. So just look where my fingers are. And then when y'all on the playback, I'm gonna leave it here a little bit. Just look where my fingertips are. Y'all read that for yourself. So the spell of Capricorn. Take a look at that Greek word. Those of you who speak Greek, y'all can go check that out. Or if you don't, you can go check it out. All right. Okay, so the author has given us some really, really excellent information. This is stuff, I think most people are unaware of, probably go through their whole life not seeing this word. Now, I've gone through this book before, and I don't remember seeing this, but I remember it now. Okay, so this Greek word means tragedy or spell of the goat. Tragedy or spell of Capricorn. In other words, the tragic play of Capricorn. The gospel is a tragic spell or play of Capricorn. All right? And remember, Capricorn is a hybrid. Capricorn is a hybrid. So you should be thinking Raphael and Nephilim, right? But anyway, let's continue. Obviously, okay, it is also called, or that Greek word can also be referred to as incantation of the realm. In fact, I like that better, because incantation, we already see incantation in like a negative sense, right? So I hope everybody sees this. The gospel, when you read it, when you listen to the sermon, any of these things, you are listening to incantations. Okay? You're reading magical spells. You're being charmed. You're being bewitched. When you read it, and when you listen to their sermons, and when you listen to the gospel or Hebrew Israelite gospel music. All right? All you Christians and Hebrew Israelites, okay? You're under a spell. You're being bewitched. Of all people, you are the ones who are being bewitched, the very ones who are talking the most trash about keeping the commandments. See how they're making a fool out of y'all? You see how they're making a fool out of you? Out of your ignorance? Right? Out of your disregard and disrespect for the laws of language. You're violating the laws of language, and hence being made a fool of, being made into bondmen and bondwomen. All right, servants, cattle and chattel. Anyway, let's continue. The oldest written tragedy, which has come down to us, the Prometheus. Okay, so the Prometheus is the oldest tragedy. Desmotes of Aeschylus, admitted to have been enacted in the Greek theaters 500 years before our Christian era. So 500 years before the Christian era, go back 350 years, that takes you to the Ptolemaic or Ptolemy Pharaoh era, right, where we have Serapis, Osiris, right? Osiris was called Christ the Savior. You guys remember that? And his bishops were called bishops of Christ. All right, so that leaves, let's see, 500 minus 350. Oh, that's 150. So how many generations of Pharaoh, of Ptolemy pharaohs would have passed by in 150 years? If my memory serves me correctly, I think there were 11 Ptolemy pharaohs, maybe 13, I don't remember. Okay, but the point is, is that this tragedy, these tragedy plays, go back to the Ptolemy Pharaoh era of time. That's my point. Okay, why? This is the gospel. Everybody see that? Bishops of the Christ, right? Mithraism and all of that. Okay, so now let's continue. Okay, so this play, Prometheus, a Desmotes of Aeschylus, admitted to have been acted in the theaters of Greece 500 years before our Christian era, presents us with precisely the same story. There we go. See? The story of a crucified God, and opens with a precisely similar first scene. So that's John the Baptist in the wilderness, right? So the scene, the wilderness, entered the demons of force and strength. To them, Mercury the messenger and forerunner of Jove, Jove, that's the Tetragrammaton, y'all. All right? So I'm not going to read the Greek, but in English it reads, at length. So at length, that's that in those days, right? That ambiguous statement about some span of time. At length, then, to the wide world's extreme bonds. What does that mean? That's not a specific location. That's the wide world. Okay, in the same as in the wilderness in Judea. That's also a non-specific place. Everybody see it? To Scythia are we come. Well, where is that? Okay, where is that? Still non-specific. What location? Where is it? In what year? In which reign or what? Where's the detail so that we can put it in a span of time, so we can put it in chronology, right? And it continues. Those pathless wilds. So there it is. That's the wilderness. Pathless wilds. No paths, no roadways. It's just wild. So there's the wilderness where Han Uman footstep never marked the ground. There's the wilderness. Okay? So we're on page 63, y'all. Just about finished with the chapter. Just one more page and we'll be finished with the chapter. Okay. But where does our poor Johnny of the Gospels pick us, his locusts, and wild honey in those pathless wilds? There's no path. So what he's going to do, go with the machete and cut a path through the jungle, through the wilderness, y'all? See what I mean? Where Han Uman, or where human footsteps never mark the ground. Why? As thus, sirs, in the ancient Arabic construction of the Zodiac, the Lion of July, that's the Lion of the tribe of Judah, was depicted with a bee. All right, so the Lion of the tribe of Judah was depicted with the bee. With a bee, like a bumblebee or a yellow jacket. Doesn't this sound similar to the story about Samson and the honey? But anyway, let's keep going. So the Arabs' construction of the Zodiac, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, or the Lion of July, was a bee. Y'all got that? Let me read it again in case y'all didn't hear me. Why? As thus, sirs, in the ancient Arabic constructions of the Zodiac, that would be our ancestors, the Lion of July was depicted as a bee. So we need to put, if it's possible, put a date on this to see if these are Moorish Arabics, the originals, or are these hybrid Arabs, right? If it's Moors, then we need to change the Lion of July back into a bee. Why? Why do we do that? Because we're supposed to do what? We're supposed to return to the heritage and principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. So we need to restore everything back to its original pristine state. Right? In the same way, we need to stop following these external deities, get out of religion, okay? Abandon everything that deludes to slavery. All right, y'all? So somebody who has the expertise doesn't have to be me, but anybody could start this process of correcting the Zodiac. Okay, not just the stories, but the glyphs. Restore it back to what our ancient ancestors used. Okay, so let's continue. Which the Arabs ingeniously called the honey fly, flying into his mouth. Everybody see that? Now remember where that's coming from, because the water bearer Aquarius. So here's Aquarius. So if you draw a straight line to the next zodiac sign at the opposite end, it's going to be the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Okay, which was actually a honeybee at that time. All right, yo. So that's how he's getting this honeybee, the Lion of the tribe of Judah stuff. Okay, so now let's continue. Well, they call it a honey fly, flying into his mouth, and John has to do, let me read this again. And John has to do in the new covenant what his predecessor Samson, I knew it was coming, Samson had done in the old, to kill, that is to overcome or come over the lion. Y'all see it? This stuff is really fun. Okay? So John has to do in the New Testament what his predecessor Samson had done in the Old Testament. To kill, that is to overcome or come over the lion. And so to take the very victuals out of his mouth, take the food out of his mouth, which gives us the real solution of Samson's famous riddle. So here's the solution to Samson's riddle, the real solution. Out of the eater, a quote, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. So there was the honey for him. And sure, I need not explain to you how necessarily the honey was that was torn out of the throat of a wild beast would be. Very, very wild honey. And there is the locusts, enough for him, and the scorpion of October. So, okay, so that, I don't think we need much explanation for the locust being the scorpion of October. All right? So that's very interesting. All right, y'all. Let's see, we're 44 minutes into it. Okay, let's try to finish up this chapter, and then we can be finished. Let me see. This is very, very frustrating, y'all, because YouTube might give me a strike if this music is being heard in the video. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find another place to sit. Hold on. All right, but it's going to be loud. If I go outside, it's going to be real loud. Hold on. think I'm gonna come back here again. Let me see. That's not so bad. Let's see. I'm gonna try it outside. Okay. But yeah, sometimes the culture in Southeast Asia, when you deal with passive aggressive type people, and you know, sometimes a lot of people are just ill-mannered, unfortunately. I think I'm gonna sit over here. Hold on. Sorry for the interruption, everyone, but I don't want to get a strike. I've already been warned twice. I've been warned once about music. And there's music over there. Hold on. I might delete this video and do it again. I might have to delete it and do it again. Hold on. Let me see. Oh shit. Maybe can I sit there? Yeah. So y'all hear it? I'm outside. I gotta figure something else out. But you know, all right, y'all. Let's just try to get through it. I'll just try to get through it. Oh well. Maybe this is better. Well, anyway, let's begin. Page 63. And why are all the 12 apostles spoken of as 12 poor fishermen? A scale set of them, I admit. A scaly set of them, I admit. So sarcasm. Scaly as in fish scales. But as you see, Aries is the first. The fish is the 12th of them. So in other words, Aries is the first zodiac sign, and then Pisces is the 12th zodiac sign. All right? And why are all the 12 apostles spoken of as 12 poor fishermen? A scaly set of them, I admit, but as you see, Aries is the first, the fishes is the 12th of them, and they are all of them eternally running after the loaves and fishes. Y'all got that? So JC fed the crowds with 2 fish and 5 loaves. Why? Because the first zodiac sign, because the last zodiac sign is Pisces. Okay? And the first one is Aries. So all of the zodiac signs are chasing after the first or the 12. Y'all get it? The sun is going through each of them. Everybody get that? That's quite interesting, right? Okay. So it says here, cafe? Black cafe? Thank you. Okay, y'all, so check this out. Let me see if I can develop this more. And they're all of them eternally running after the loaves. So what's the loaves? The loaves is Virgo. Virgo has the stalk of corn or wheat in her hand, right? And fishes, which is Pisces, which is the last one. Than which nothing can be more apostolical. And why is it that, quote unquote, all that will live godly in Christ Jesus must suffer persecution? Well, that's a good question, right? That's a good question. But because, as you see, they are all of them eternally running after one another. And no sooner shall you see one of them getting a little bit up in the world, but you shall observe another rising in the horizon immediately under him, ready to give him a somerset from his highest point of elevation and pitch him to the devil. So in other words, you look out at the horizon, let's say once a month, right? And you'll see, or let me repeat that. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at it in terms of an epoch of time. It might be easier. So the age of Pisces, many people say the age of Pisces has ended. But when we were under the age of Pisces, when you look out at the horizon at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, 5:35 a.m., 5:30 rather, 5:45 a.m., you look to the east at the horizon, slightly above the horizon, and you will see the constellation Pisces. That's a sign that we're in the age of Pisces, right? But then when we move to Aquarius, you look out, same time, 5:30 at sunrise. You look out in the morning at sunrise, just above the horizon on the east, and now you're going to see the constellation Aquarius. So every 2,000, what is it? Approximately 2,000. Somebody divide 25,900 divided by 12. That's the approximate number of years of each zodiacal age. All right? So that's going to keep changing. So it's going to continue to go like this. So let's say if we start with Aries, and the time goes by, 25,900 years later, Aries will be back at the horizon. So the zodiac signs are chasing each other. Why? Because they're going in a circular motion, right? Actually, it's going this way. It's going backwards. Well, it looks like it's going backwards. It's called the retrograde, the precession of the equinoxes. Okay. So it's pretty fascinating. Anyway, let's continue. And here, sirs, have we the solution of that astronomical enigma, which has so puzzled the chuckle-headed critics upon sacred writ. And by the way, do y'all know that when you write a writ, it's sacred? Let me repeat that. I don't know if y'all heard me. My signal was interrupted. When you write a writ, that writ is sacred. Are y'all aware of that? What makes it sacred? The fact that you wrote it. And when you speak it, it's divine. That's right. When you write it, it is a sacred writing. It is divine. Why? Because you're divine. Man is thought made manifest. Y'all ever thought about what is the real meaning of this Ancient Ibaryath word Hebrew, people will say those who crossed over what? And then they argue about what they crossed over. What they crossed over this river or that body of water. But what if those who crossed over are those who crossed over from one realm, into the earth plane and became manifest or manifested from the soil. All right. Those who crossed over. Those who were once thought, pure consciousness, or whatever form that was, and we crossed over from that realm onto the earth plane and made ourselves manifest. Made ourselves manifest. Now you understand? Do you understand, scholars? Why Moore's Genesis chapter 2 verse 7 are the substance and subject matter of the law? Because you are law. Because we are law. That's a well-established principle in law. You should understand now, right? That's what a Hebrew is. Those who crossed over. You are law because we're dealing with the Hermetic. You're law because we are dealing with what? Because we are all law. We are all law. The first law. Mentalism. All is mind. Intelligence is what? Thought. To remember, that's thought. Right? So mental function in the past, to remember, present, thinking present, or imagining the future. That's all thought. Images and words. Everybody see that? Images and words. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was God. So that's what a Hebrew is. Okay? So you should understand why you always must be in honor and stay in honor. You must always be in your higher self. At all times and at all costs. All right? It's purely astrological. Whether you accept it or not. If you talk about the Zodiac, you must understand what undergirds it, which are the Hermetic laws. Which is you. So who's protecting you? Well, you protect you. Nature protects you. Right? That's the cherubim and the seraphim. Okay? What energy is there that y'all can think of that we see consistently? We see it, we're exposed to it. The beginning of a season, for example, the beginning of each season, the seraphim. The seraphim, the beginning of that energy, that cosmic energy that ushers in the beginning of each season. And then the end of that season, the cherubim. What greater power do y'all know of? What power do you know of that can cause winter to become spring? What power do you know of that can cause spring to become summer? That can generate the heat to melt snow on the planet? And that can overcome hot temperatures and cause it to snow. What powers do you all know of? What energies do you know of that can perform that function? We don't know any. Okay, so that energy ushering in every season, that's the cherubim. Okay, and then when that energy runs out, the new season will begin. The perspective is the northern hemisphere, North America. A new season begins. And at the beginning of the new season, what? It's extremely powerful energy. Because it's got to overcome the previous season. Okay? It's a tremendous amount of energy. Huge. And thus, nature protects us when we are in honor. Okay? Meaning that we are following the Most High's instructions. We are following our ancestors' principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. See, you put all of this together, the essence of it is to not harm anyone, including yourself. And worshiping external deities harms you and others, especially your heirs. Take a look at the contract. Okay? That's just looking at the contract. The contract, y'all, is a constitution, right? It's a trust document. And guess what? Many of y'all might not like this. You may not like it. But you hold each of the three positions in the trust. So y'all chew on that one. Chew on that one. But I give you a hint: masculine mental energy and the Hermetic laws. And study yourself. But I'm sure many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you don't, you'll get there. It gives you something to think about. Okay? All right, let's continue. Where are we? And why is it that, quote unquote, all that will live godly in Christ Jesus must suffer persecution? That's a darn good question, right? Because that flies in the face of the Mosaic covenant. All who live in harmony with the Most High's commandments, all who keep his commandments, are supposed to receive extreme wealth, riches, and social position. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. But Christ is coming in. When you want to follow him, you need to suffer persecution. But of course, remember, we're dealing with Capricorn and Pisces, right? And a civilly dead state, where you are a Goyim. You're just a beast, right? But with our contract with the Most High, the so-called Mosaic covenant, we are the rightful heirs of all land. That would include gold and silver, all of the minerals, precious, semi-precious, right? All of the precious metals. all the natural gases, petroleum, all energies, terrestrial and cosmic, all resources, as I said, all commerce and all contracts. We are the rightful heirs. Everybody see it? So when you look at the Constitution for the United States of North America, we would be what? Constitutionally, we would be the people, the posterity, the heirs, the beneficiaries. Or you can say the creditors, right? We're the creditors. Whereas in the New Testament, you're a stateless person, you're civilly dead, and you are a debtor. And you will work. And you will work for somebody else. Anyway, let's continue. All right, so we left off is why is it that those who live godly in Christ Jesus must suffer persecution? So why is that? But because, as you see, there are all of them eternally running one after another, and no sooner shall you see one of them getting a little bit up in the world, but you shall observe another rising in the horizon immediately under him. Those are the constellations, right? Ready to give him a somerset from his high point of elevation, and pitch him to the devil. Oh. Excuse me. So the winter solstice, right? The sun is at its lowest point in the sky. The number of dark hours are at their maximum. It's cold. Evil things happen in the winter, right? Evil things happen in the winter. So the sun ascends from the winter solstice. Christ is reigning, right? The light, Christ is reigning. We get to the summer solstice. Now, the sun begins to ascend. Descend, rather. It begins to fall. Remember June 24th, okay, the Festival of John. So the sun is falling, the days are shortening. And the days continue to get shorter until it gets to its shortest, their fewest number of hours. Y'all see it? The sun gets to its fewest number of daylight hours. Rather, the daylight hours become fewest during the whole year. Okay? The opening of the gates of hell is September 29. So there's a constant cycle of going to hell. Christ is rising. Okay? You're following Christ. Okay? So you're ascending, but you keep going to hell. It's the constant battle of good and evil. Right? The constant battle of good and evil. Jesus versus the devil. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. That's why Christians continually must face persecution. That's funny. So it's astrological. All right? A constant battle between good and evil. Between God and the devil. The sun's eternal and everlasting movement from one zodiac to the other. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. That was humorous. That was funny. And here, sirs, have we the solution to that astronomical enigma which has so puzzled the chuckle-headed critics upon sacred writs, who are called commentators. All right, so y'all better beware of these commentators. These commentators and scribes, these are the ones who write lies. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. These are the ones that the politicians and the church, Catholicism, will turn to. The courts, right? All elements of Catholic domination will turn to the scribes and the commentators and tell them what to write, what to edit, what to add, what to remove from your gospel and from your Old Testament. Jeremiah 8:8, to achieve corporate goals. All right, now let's continue. But whose brains, for all wit that was ever in them, so whatever intelligence that they had, might as well have been made of common potatoes. All right. Quote, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So let me ask you the question, what days? Be more specific. What tribulation? Be more specific. These are broad, ambiguous terms that really don't give us any meaning, right? Very difficult to trace it. You have to do what? You have to look at the etymology, the radicals of the original words in those scripts, right? In that holy writ, that sacred writ. Okay? Shall the sun sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, end quote. A catastrophe which we actually witness at this day as the natural result of the tribulation, not of any person that exists or ever did exist on earth. So what tribulation is it, y'all? Clearly, it's a tribulation, what? Of astronomical origin, right? Somebody's smoking here. Let me finish this up and I gotta run, y'all. I don't like cigarettes. Okay, so what tribulation? Let's let the author speak for himself. Is this chick leaving? Let's let the author speak for himself. Here we go. But the tribulation of those days, i.e., the days have been persecuting one another, so that our sun is darkened. Scarce a moonlight night or twinkling stars appear to make us amend for the chill, foggy day. So here we're talking about what? The beginning of winter and then getting into deep winter, etc. All right? So, but the tribulation of those days, i.e., the days have been persecuting one another, so that our sun is darkened. Scarce a moonlight night or twinkling star appear to make us amend for the chill, foggy day, and the very power of the heavens to fertilize our earth again seems to be brought into doubt. Okay, so again, the sun is falling. So the sun is falling, the days are getting shorter, and the temperature is increasing. Hold on, y'all, I gotta... Thanks. So the temperature is increasing because the number of daylight hours are becoming fewer. So the sun is being humiliated. Christ is being persecuted, slapped, and spit upon. Until when? Until finally the evil overtakes the good. And eventually the number of nighttime hours reach their maximum during the year. So the sun has been persecuted. This is the great tribulation of the earth, the winter months. The winter months. All right? Preceded by fall. So when you look up in the sky, if you can see the patterns, the constellations, that's the great tribulation that comes once a year. I hope everyone understands. I hope everyone understands. So again, but the tribulation of those days, i.e., the days have been persecuting one another, so that our Escheat sun is darkened. The number of daylight hours are getting shorter. There's the persecution and the humiliation of the Christ. He gets slapped, he gets spit upon, he gets beaten, and eventually what? He gets crucified. He gives up the ghost. The days have been persecuting one another, so that the sun is darkened, scarce a moonlit night or twinkling star appears, to make us amend for the chill, foggy day, and the very power of the heavens to fertilize our earth again seems to be brought in doubt. So the sun, right? The sun is the cause of the growth of the next generation, right? It's the sun that causes the snow to melt. But remember doubting Thomas, who doubted, was it on December 21st? I don't remember the exact date. But Thomas doubts whether or not the sun will ever rise again. Y'all remember that? So this is what he's talking about. Okay? Because the sun is what? There's no shadow cast from December 21, 22 to the end of December 24th at 12 midnight, which is the beginning of December 25th. So there's no shadow cast on the sundial for a full 3 days. So people doubted whether or not the sun would rise again. So the story goes. But, quote unquote, immediately after, the days shall be shortened. As on December 21st, they shall have reached the shortest. We just talked about that. That's the winter solstice. Quote unquote, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the heavens with power and great brightness. Why? Because at December 25, the sun springs northerly. The sun is springing upward. It's springing, so the number of daylight hours are increasing. So y'all got it? Immediately after those days, what days? The days where the nighttime hours ruled. The winter. Immediately after winter, December 25th, the sun begins to, not the whole winter, right? Because January and February is winter. I'm talking about the deep winter, December. But immediately after those days, when the sun is falling and it reaches its lowest point in the southern sky, it begins to rise, to spring up, right? It begins to go north, change directions and go north. So again, but immediately after those days, the days shall be shortened as on December 21 of 22. They shall have reached their shortest. Then shall appear the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great brightness. That happens at 12 midnight on December 25, when the sun reaches, or when the shadow casts on the sundial. I'm distracted, y'all, excuse me. At 12 midnight, at the end of December 24, the beginning of December 25, the sun casts a full 1 degree shadow on the sundial. So that's the end of the days where the number of nighttime hours were gradually increasing. That's the end of that. That is the immediately after those days. Now, December 25, 12 midnight, the very beginning of December 25. Now we see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. We see the sign. The sun is ascending. The days are now getting longer and longer every day. The sun rises 1 degree every day. Y'all see it? Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great brightness. As there you see, immediately after the shortest day emerges the constellation of the water bearer, who is the Son of Man, the Baptist of the Zodiac, with his sharp frost eating up the grubs and larvae of insects that might be fatal to incipient vegetation, and pledging to our grateful faith the pleasing hope that though for a season, and here's the poem, grim horror round our cottage reign, yet spring will come, the nature smile again, end quote. Oh, that's pretty cool. So what this is saying is that in January, Aquarius begins. And the sun, remember, is rising 1 degree every day after on December 25th. Now the snow will begin to melt. And the grubs in the ground, the grubs in the soil that are already embedded in plants from the previous season will begin to die. Hence, John the Baptist lived in the wilderness eating grubs, because the sun rising is causing the grubs to die. The frost. Let me go back through it. Let me read it. So remember, the water bearer is John the Baptist, y'all. The water bearer is John the Baptist. Okay, so as you see, immediately after the shortest day emerges the constellation, the water bearer, that's Aquarius, who is the Son of Man. So Aquarius is Jesus. The zodiac sign Aquarius is Jesus, the water bearer. The Baptist of the Zodiac. Isn't that something, y'all? Immediately after the shortest day emerges the constellation of the water bearer, who is the S-O-N, Son of Man, the Baptist of the Zodiac, with his sharp frost eating up the grubs. Okay, so the grubs are freezing. They're dying because of frostbite, too cold to survive. And larva, it's too cold for the larva to survive. So it's said that John the Baptist, who is the S-O-N, Son of Man, is eating the grubs, because he's killing the grubs and he's killing the larva insects because it's too cold for them to survive. Okay? Clear? That was pretty cool. I like that. I like that. So who is John the Baptist? John the Baptist is, let's go back to it, according to the Chaldean Berosus, John the Baptist is Oannes, O-A-N-N-E-S, the half-man, half-fish deity, who every day would come up out of the Red Sea and educate the Babylonians, according to their story. Oannes is Dogon, D-A-G-O-N, D-O-G-O-N, the deity of the Catholics, and hence all of the so-called Christians and Hebrew Israelites who follow the New Testament, and those who are wearing the mitre or the mitri, regardless of how you pronounce it, regardless of how you spell it. It is still worshipful honor, whether they know it or not, of the Dogon. How do I know? Well, you just read up on it. Go read up on the Catholic meaning of it. Google search it. So the Oannes Dogon, these are the Raphaim in their metamorphosized state. The Nephilim in their metamorphosized state. You can make the correlation to J.C. the Christ figure talking to the demon-possessed man in the cave. And when the legion left his body, they went into the herd of pigs. And mysteriously, they caused the herd of pigs to run off the cliff into the sea, indicating that they would rather be in the flesh of a man or even a hybrid man, even a hybrid, than be in the flesh of an animal. So they ran off into the sea, of course, where they would do what? Obviously, materialize back into Oannes or mermaid type, right? So who else is John the Baptist? John the Baptist is Aquarius, the water bearer. And Aquarius, the water, let me go back. Oannes is also referred to as John the Dipper, because every night Oannes would dip back into the sea and go wherever the mermaid or Dogon or Oannes, wherever they go in the sea, that's where they went, to the land underneath the sea. Clear? And Aquarius is John the Baptist celestially. Why? Because he's baptizing the earth. And y'all can correlate this too, remember, to the Star of Bethlehem. John is pouring water down into the great fish's mouth. Not the Star of Bethlehem, but with Jonah. Let me wrap this up, y'all. I'm too distracted trying to deal with this. I'm talking and breathing in this cigarette smoke, and man, I feel like I have so many distractions. I don't know if I'm going to keep this video up, y'all. I might take this one down and redo it. But anyway, actually, I'm a visitor here. It's not their fault. I need to have my own studio because this is their culture. They sit outside and smoke. But the unfortunate thing, so many people in Asia smoke, young people. And they put, in Vietnam, they put a picture of a man. He looks like he has COPD. I mean, he's skin and bones all sucked up, clearly, and he's got a cigarette. He looks like he has TB, actually, to me, right? Multi-drug resistant TB. He looks messed up. On the cigarette pack. And they still smoke. They still smoke. And cigarettes are extremely inexpensive here. And they smoke one cigarette after another. And it's sad. Very, very sad. Young people, old people too. But anyway, let's do this last paragraph and then I'm going to wrap it up. And sure, as I may say, in the same sense as it was said by the astrologue of the gospel, quote, there be some standing here that shall not taste death until all these things be fulfilled, end quote. Nay, he adds with particular emphasis, verily I say unto you, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things are done, end quote. But done, such things never were. Those prophecies have not been fulfilled, y'all. Those prophecies have not been fulfilled. But astrologically, when you look at them astrologically, they get fulfilled once a year. But make the distinction, if you haven't realized this already. The Gospels had to have occurred, if you believe this story as being a real story, in North America. In North America, because that's the only place where there are 4 seasons. That's the only place there's 4 seasons. So where would Egypt have to be? Or at least Egypt in the story. It has to be in North America. Tell me I'm wrong. The original Gospels written by the Egyptians. The original Gospels written by the Egyptians were written from the point of view or the perspective of North America. Why was somebody sitting, let's say, in sub-Saharan Africa, or let's say in Mumbai, India, or let's say in Germany, Australia, Brazil? Why was somebody sitting there write about a place where there's 4 seasons when they don't have 4 seasons in those places? They have 2. They either have wet and dry, right? Wet season, rainy season, dry season, sunny season. Or they have winter and winter. No, I'm joking. In Central and Eastern Germany, the winter is cold, very cold, and then it warms up. But to me, I was still cold. It's like 60, maybe get into the 70s, mid to lower 70s, mid to upper 60s. That's their summer, but still 2 seasons. Still 2 seasons. Sub-Saharan Africa, they don't have 4 seasons. They don't have a true winter, a clearly defined winter, clearly defined by the weather. They don't have a clearly defined spring. They don't have a clearly defined summer. And they definitely don't have a clearly defined fall. Only North America. So the original gospel had to have been written in North America. Or if you want to be liberal, people who were what? Familiar with North America, meaning that they had to have been there. Or if you want to be more liberal than that, they studied about it. But the events in the Gospels supposed to take place near Egypt. So you're still in North America. Now, astrologically, you are clearly in North America. Right? Astrologically, you're clearly in North America. Right? But even according to the gospel, if you want to look at it historically, you're still in North America. hope everybody sees this. Clear as day, right, y'all? Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. I got to start the paragraph again. And sure as I may say, in the same sense as it was said by the astrologue of the gospel, quote unquote. See, when he says astrologue of the gospel, what he's telling you is that these stories or these incidents are telling the story of natural phenomena as it relates to the position of the zodiac signs and the sun and the natural phenomena occurring on earth. That's what he means by the astrologue of the gospel. It's a log, or like a farmer's almanac, written in code. It's a science book. Okay, law is science, the mind sciences, weather, climate, astrology, astronomy, and then the Brotherhood of Saturn, the devotees of the Divine Master, the Black Prince, came in and edited it. And then they began to push the narrative, the notion that it's based upon real history and that the characters, the hypocrites, actually lived. Okay? And JC, the Christ figure, is mocking you when he calls the chief priest and the other religious leaders, the scribes, hypocrites. Y'all thought he was talking about they're hypocrites because they don't follow the law. But he's talking about they're hypocrites because they are actors in a play. The gospel is just a tragedy, a tragic play. So he calls them hypocrites. Because actors were called hypocrites. Because the things that they were saying and doing in the play and the mask that they're wearing is not them in their personal life. But they played with you. Y'all see the mind game they play with you? By using words? All right. Let's continue. So, quote unquote, there be some standing here, there will be some standing here that shall not taste death until all these things be fulfilled. Now we know that all of the apostles died. In fact, everybody of that generation died. And here we are some 2,000 years later, and the kingdom, JC's kingdom, is still not reigning on the earth. But yet JC said, there will be some standing here that shall not taste death until all these things be fulfilled. That's a failed prophecy. Right? But you got to come up with your doctrine, and you got to do a collage, pull from this book that was written 500, 1,000 years ago, however many, right? You got to collage everything together. Then you call it precepting it out. My goodness. So a failed prophecy. But, as I said before, when you look at it astrologically, it's fulfilled once a year, so it's been fulfilled more than 2,000 times. 2,000 years, once a year. Astrologically, there's always been a fall, a winter, right? The persecution of the Christ. Y'all remember that? And then after those, so those negative days, the days where the Christ is persecuted, the days of darkness, the great tribulation, those days, that's when the sun is falling. In those days, the great tribulation ends on December 24th and 25th at 12 midnight. That's when the great tribulation ends. And you look in the sign in January, right toward the east on the horizon, you see John the Baptizer, Aquarius. And you see the sun rising. There's the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great glory. That happens once a year, and it never failed to happen. But what about your gospel doctrine? See, y'all got to make stuff up. Every year you make something up. The Hebrew Israelites, remember, they're not the only religious organization who made up a date when Christ was to return. The JWs did it, right? Many of these organizations make up dates when Christ is supposed to come back. And all of them made complete fools of themselves. Many people lost their lives. And many people lost their homes, all their finance. Remember, it was in 1977 or so when the JW organization were pushing that the end would come. I think they did it in 1914. I think it was even, I don't remember, y'all. I've been away from that for a while. I think it was before 1914, but I think it was a time before 1914. I think maybe again the 1940s, 1954, something like that, and they did it again in 1977. But they always find a way to deny it, that they made these false prophecies. But the way they deal with it, they say they got new light. They say they got new light, right? New light. They got new light. So they had to change because they got new light. In other words, they saw that what they were saying, time was up on it, right? So they put the people in fear, put them in a state of emergency mentally, and they knew it was going to fail. They knew it. They just wanted to put the people in the mindset, give them a sense of urgency so that they would do what? Spend more time out evangelizing, preaching and teaching, going door to door. Street corner work, like they used to call it. Teaching for free, building new kingdom, all this free labor, giving money to build and buy new properties for kingdom halls and buildings for other usages, right? But as I said, they knew those prophecies would fail, and they knew that when the date finally came, they would just say, we got new light, and we never officially said it, even though they may have printed it in their literature, but we got new light. All right? And then they let that die down again, and then they come up with another date, and they repeat the process. But not only them, a lot of these religious organizations are doing that. To put the fear of God in you, to get as many drachma coins out of your mouth because you're a fish, whose purpose is to give them a drachma coin on the regular, once a month, to pay the tax. All right? So, nay, he adds, with particular emphasis, quote, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away until all these things be done. So this is another failed prophecy by the Christ. If you look at this as Christ being a person who really walked on earth, who was really the son of the Tetragrammaton. Because that generation, in fact, did pass away, and there still has not been a great tribulation, and there still has not been Armageddon, and the kingdom of God has not come upon the earth until now. Now, y'all can poo-poo and woo-woo, wee-wee it away with all of your explanations and doctrines, but the fact of the matter is, it's been more than 2,000 years. So what's the point? With that amount of time going by, what's the point? What's the point? But done, such things never were. See, there are unfulfilled prophecies. Nor could have been in any year of our lives. That's right. Because that happened 2,000 years ago. Or so. Or more. Right? More or less 2,000 years ago. Still ain't happened. Thank you. Come on. Which since they who reject will find that they have the great miracles to work to save their Savior, as ever their Savior wrought to save them. Now, I often find that about religious people. They're doing more to save their Savior, to protect their deity, their Savior, than their deity is doing to protect them. It's supposed to be the other way around. The deity don't need you to protect him, it, her, she, whatever. This guy on a motorcycle just crashed into somebody's vehicle. And he acted like nothing happened. Boy, oh boy. But anyway, it's something for everybody to think about, right? Okay, so recap the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is from the summer solstice, June 21, when the sun begins to fall, all the way until December 21, 22, which is the winter solstice. All right? The falling or the humiliation of the Christ. The nighttime hours are getting longer. The nights are getting longer. That's the Great Tribulation. That's evil, right? People do evil in the dark. Take the D off of dark. Put it in front of evil. Prefix it to evil. You get devil. Devilish things happen in the dark. Right? John the Baptist lived off of grubs. John the Baptist, his diet was what? Grubs, maggots, honey. What else, y'all? Let me go back up here. But anyway, all that's saying is that in Aquarius, John the Baptist, right, pouring that water out onto the earth in January, is freezing cold. larvae gets killed, freeze to death, right? The maggots, of course, freeze to death. The hold on. Actually, I like that part of the story. Oh, okay. So yeah, I got that right. So the larvae and the grubs freeze to death, and because they freeze to death, they cannot destroy the crops, the next generation of crops when they grow in the spring. So hence John the Baptist or Aquarius eats them, meaning causes them to die by freezing them to death. All right? Let's go back to the honey story. The honey and the locust. So the honey, y'all remember Aquarius, you draw a straight line connected to the next zodiac directly across from it. That's the lion of the tribe of Judah. Our ancient ancestors represented that lion. It was depicted with the bee. I'm sorry, it was not depicted as a bee. It was depicted with the bee. So it was a lion with the bee. Okay, so let me correct myself. In fact, let me read it, put it into the public record. Page 63. But where does our poor Johnny of the gospel, that's John the Baptist, pick us his locust and wild honey in those pathless wilds, that's in the wilderness, where Han Uman footsteps never mark the ground. Okay? That's where people have never walked in the forest or in the wilderness. Well, here it is, y'all. Why? As thus, sirs, or here's your answer. In the ancient Arabic construction of the zodiac, the lion of July, that's the lion of the tribe of Judah, the lion of July was depicted with the bee. So y'all can imagine the lion of the tribe of Judah with the bee. Maybe the bee is in his mouth or somewhere around his mouth. Let's continue. Which the Arabs ingeniously call the honey fly, flying into his mouth. Y'all see it? So get a picture of a lion with his mouth open. Maybe he's roaring, and you see a bee in his mouth. Now associate that with the story of Samson and Samson's riddle. Let's continue. And John has to do in the new covenant, the new contract, what his predecessor Samson had done in the old covenant, which is to kill. To kill, by kill he means to overcome or come over the lion of the tribe of Judah, the lion of July, Leo the lion with the honeybee or a bee in his mouth. And so to take the very victuals out of his mouth. Okay, so John the Baptist had to take the bee, the food, the honeybee out of Leo the lion's mouth. The same way Samson did. Okay, now let's continue. Samson overcoming the lion, right? And then John the Baptist taking the honeybee out of Leo the lion's mouth. Well, let's continue. And so to take the very victuals out of his mouth, which gives us the real solution of Samson's famous riddle. And so here it is, quote unquote. Out of the mouth, out of the eater came forth meat. So the eater has to be the lion, the meat has to be the honeybee, and out of the strong, that's the lion, Leo the lion, came forth sweetness, that's the honeybee. Okay? So there was the honey for him, and sure I need not explain to you how necessarily the honey that was torn out of the throat of the wild beast, that's Leo the lion, would be very, very wild honey. Okay, right. They're in the wilderness. It's wild honey. And there is the locust enough for him, the Scorpio or the scorpion of October. So the locust is the scorpion of October, which is what? The next zodiac sign. Is that right, yo? No. The lion of the tribe of Judah. So Leo, Virgo. So I'm trying to see whether I'm trying to get the sequence in my mind. And there is a locust enough for him and the scorpion of October. So I have to come back to that, y'all. I need to find the relationship between July, August, September, and then October. The scorpion of October. So I'm going to have to come back to that. I need to think about that, y'all. All right? So Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Thanks all, everyone, for supporting my project to write the book of the law in modern English and ancient Ibaryath, and to restore natural law, including astrology and astronomy, and of course to remove all of the deceit, intentional and honest mistakes if there are. But if you think this is something, there's much more to uncover than just this, because here we're only dealing with astrology. All right, I lost the connection. I don't know what y'all heard, but here we're only dealing with astrology. But in the book of the law, if y'all come to my class on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we uncover this kind of stuff across many topics. Across many topics. Joelle writes, thank you, Dr. Yasapa. It's my pleasure, Joelle. My pleasure. Islam to all the Moors. Shalawama. So I'm going to wrap it up, y'all. This was a very challenging live stream because of all of the distractions I have to contend with. But let me finish giving my thanks. Thanks also for everyone who's subscribed to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, to everyone who's bought my books, my Ancient Ibaryath books, where you get to see all of this kinds of stuff. I really wish all of y'all would come to class on Saturday at 10 a.m. You don't have to pay anything unless you enroll. Okay? But you see this kind of stuff and more, not just astrology. You see it with law, you see it with civics, you see all kind of stuff that's buried, hidden from you in the English. Okay? But anyway, we're going to pick it. I will probably, if I get time, I'm going to do this video again. I'm going to watch it and then make a decision whether or not I'm going to do this again, okay? I'm not, at this point, I don't feel happy with it. But we'll see what happens. Let some time go by, and I'll see if I'm going to redo it or not. But if I don't redo it, we will begin with Raising the Devil, which is sermon number 5. Raising the Devil, which is sermon number 5. Okay? Page 65. On page 65, y'all. All right? So thanks, everyone, for joining me. Islam to all the Moors, and Shalawama.